Hello and welcome to the first episode of Five Guys Talking. The premise is in the title. We're just five guys talking about sports. To my right, we have Daniel Seaman and Linnell Willingham. To my left, we have Dakota Kotzel, Kyle Wells. Guys, let's get started. Last week, the Bison played Thomas More, ranked number 13 in the country. They lost 30-7. What happened?
Well, to start with, Chase didn't really have a good day. He was 20 of 36 for 153 yards. His leading receiver was Dustin Hess, who had 7 for 38. And that's kind of interesting to me because tight end in Bethany's offense isn't supposed to lead the team in catches.
That's true.
Not a guy that's normally too prevalent. Offense struggled overall on the day. I mean, only managing to get 11 first downs. Got to have a better performance out of our offense.
Yeah, the Bison, obviously they kept the defense on the field again, got them tired. Only had 79 yards rushing on the day, which, need to get the running game going. And if they can keep the defense on the field, which they would have, had a better shot. Obviously going to Thomas More being ranked was already a tough challenge to begin with.
Definitely.
But getting your defense just worn out like they have the last couple weeks, just not last week, has been a Achilles heel for them so far.
Yeah, and another main thing, it's been a reoccurring thing the entire season was the amount of the chances of not having third down conversions. Heck, it shows right here that they're 4 of 16 on the day, and you got to convert on third downs. That's how you get successful.
I think the only shining point to this game was Donovan Hayden having 16 tackles, 2 for a loss, forced fumble, and a sack.
Yeah,
the defense has been great all year, guys.
Yeah, they had 5 sacks and 3 forced fumbles last game. I don't think the defense is really necessarily the problem for Bethany. I think the problem is the offense can't stay on the field long enough. When you have guys getting gassed, that's where you start to realize when you give the idea of we were in it till the third quarter. That's really what it means. After about the third quarter, you start to get too gassed out, and that's where the good teams really take it to that next level. And that's what Thomas More did.
Right, and like you said, Kyle, the inability to convert third downs. Went 3 and out 6 times. It can't happen. This can't happen.
Yeah, it shows the time possession ain't really much of a difference. It was 33 and a half to about 25 and a half to Bethany. And besides that, too many 3 and outs. Defense is on the field way too long. Recurring thing the entire season, But Donovan Hayden did have a heck of a day. He's over 117 tackles now,
Yep.
And heck, the next closest guy is Aaron Fry with 64. So, really showing his stats are, increasing the way they are.
Defense finished with 5 sacks and 3 forced fumbles. Can't ask for any more than that, right?
No.
Yeah, another thing with the defense, they ranked second in the PAC and then 21st nationally with 3.38 sacks per game. So it shows you right there how the defense has been playing.
Yep.
Well, let's not put all the blame on the offense, though. Defensively, they gave up 256 yards on the ground. You can't do that. And over this 7-game skid, they've given up about 230 per. So, got to improve in all aspects.
But in my opinion, I think that comes from them being tired.
Oh, of course.
Playing too
Definitely
much because the offense
take
can't
that
stay
into
on the field.
Definitely take that into account.
Well, I think another big issue is if you notice with Bethany is that they do lack, being multidimensional. They're really a one-dimensional team. They're either running the ball well or they're just passing the ball well. Well, for Thomas More, you can even bring it up even Grove City, later in the show. These are teams that try to very hard to be two-dimensional. If you're able to run and pass, it adds a sense of misdirection almost, and it makes the defense have to stay balanced.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right about that. It's either they're running the ball a lot or they're throwing the ball a lot. It's just it's almost like you can tell what they're doing the entire time. But I feel with this game coming up, they need to learn how to stretch the field a little more instead of a little bit dink and dunk. And they're doing fairly well using the running back and quarterback. Going to the option game and things like that. But you're right; they need to stretch the field vertically and hopefully get the defense on their heels.
All right, now let's look at all around the PAC last week. Westminster fell to Carnegie Mellon 35-23. That surprises me because Westminster's a solid team. They went to ECAC last year.
Right.
And then we had St. Vincent falling to W&J 48-26. I kind of saw that coming.
Yeah,
What about you guys?
I think most people saw that coming. I think W&J, they've really, over the last 4 years, have really done well to dominate this division. And then going back to Carnegie Mellon, I really think they've done very well coming into this division. They haven't been in the PAC too long and getting some solid wins against the better teams in our division.
And then we had Grove City falling to Geneva 21-14. Grove City coming into this game against the Bison, they haven't won a game in the PAC.
No. They're both 0-6 in the pack, so it's actually going to be exciting to see how
Yes.
everything's going to turn out for this week, because it's make or break for the season for
Right,
both
who
teams.
gets off the snide first?
Yeah.
You kind of get bragging rights and kind of get some momentum going into the offseason.
Yep. And then we had Teal prevailing over Waynesburg 50-42. That's a pretty good game right there. Same with Case Western Reserve 56 to Washington of Missouri 38. That's a non-conference game, but still, all these games in this conference this week have been very close, other than ours last week.
Well, even though the score doesn't show, I was told up to the third quarter was a pretty tough game. Heck, I was actually told that Thomas More was held to 14 points at half. That was the first time it's been like that all season. So the defense is showing their strengths there. But they got tired and getting not blown out, but a little bit different than what we expected.
Yeah, the score doesn't show really show the true outcome of the game.
Right.
Now, who's your guys' player of the week for last week? I have Donovan Hayden, obviously, 16 tackles, 2 for a loss, forced fumble and a sack. That's just fantastic in my eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. A true defender. He's always around the ball. You always see him crawling out of the pile. That guy he's a star.
Since he came to Bethany, he's really stepped up and, really has tried to be the number one linebacker. And not just, doing a lot of things you see from normal D3 linebackers. He's not just rushing the passer. He's not just sitting back in coverage. He really is trying to be an all-around backer, trying to stop runs at the line of scrimmage. And that's the one thing I do like about him. He hits the hole very hard. And that's one thing you don't see linebackers do here in Division III. They tend to wait and just sit in the hole and have the running back run to them and really do the whole wrap-up tackle. And he doesn't do that. He really tries to, be aggressive and try to get tackles for a loss. And he's very consistent at doing that.
Very, very impressive. But I have a different player of the week. I went with my man personally from the defensive line, Khalid Pierce, 2 sacks in the game. Really, since he's made his return to the lineup, really has put his stamp on his defense, just applying consistent pass rush and really acting as a leader to some of the young guns on this young defensive line. So, shout out to Khalid Pierce.
He's definitely had a leadership position on this team,
in
not
general,
just the
not
defense.
Exactly.
Yeah, the entire time he's been here.
Yep.
Yeah, I personally, obviously Pierce and then Hayden. I went with special team guy. I went Aaron Fry for the punts just because he had 6 punts last week. He averaged 45 yards per punt, and then he leads the PAC in yards per punt this year. I say him because of him having such good punts, it gets the defense an advantage because you're going to have your opponent backed up. And in this case, last week you had Thomas More backed up.
Yep.
And I think that plays huge with the defense is the way they've been playing so well and kind of get the offense into the game. Obviously, it hasn't worked out so far, but I mean it has a more positive than a negative effect on the team.
I love watching Aaron Fry play. He's the definition of a D3 player. He goes out there. He's the team captain in the secondary. He's calling out offensive plays, and then he goes out there and he does booming punts. He's not even just a good punter. He's a good coffin punter. That's putting the ball inside of the 20 and making the opposing offense march 90, 80 yards for a touchdown. That's how you win games. Put the other offense in a bad position, and he does that week in and week out.
Exactly, just the consummate professional, the model of proficiency, what to be as a Division III football player.
Yep.
I would say player of the game. It's on offense. Y'all pick defensive players, but I have to say it was Chase Kinman. He is the guy back there. He is the play caller. He is the general out there. And actually, right now, he's still the leading rusher for the team because Jalen Holmes has been out.
Yeah.
But had a couple highlight throws, not too much, but I think he's my game player of the week for me.
All right. Now let's move on to the preview of this game. The all-time series between Bethany College and Grove City College is 42, 25, and 2 in favor of Grove City. So obviously Bethany doesn't have a good record here. But last year we had Jalen Holmes rushing for 341 yards with 26 carries. And a total offense of 648 yards for the Bison. Do you think they can repeat that this year?
I don't believe, just because Jalen Holmes still hasn't shown me that he's 100% healthy. So right there, I don't believe he's going to reach the 341-yard mark that he had last year. And then when you look at the 648 total yards of offense, you subtract the 341, that leaves about, 290, 300, somewhere around there. You have to realize Eric Blinn, when he was here last year, he was almost a constant 100-yard receiver. So, there leaves a lot. That's a lot of yardage not accounted for. So I think we're not going to see that type of offensive production, but I do believe we have to see some sort of production similar to that for them to be able to win. I think you have to keep drives consistent, and ultimately to keep drives consistent and to get third downs, you have to get yards.
Exactly. It's sustaining drives. I mean, that's going to be absolutely vital in this game, especially against the opponent. Grove City dead last in third downs as far as, opponent converting percentage. Last week, the Bison made a habit of going 3 and out. But this week, I think they definitely have an opportunity to really bandage some of those mistakes and really get this offense going.
Yep.
Nope.
Half the problem is that once you get past the 50, they really can't punch it in. And once they get in the red zone, they really have difficulties there. You're right. Jalen Holmes hasn't been 100% healthy since he hurt his ankle in, week 2. And once he's fully 100%, that's where that running game is going to shine a lot more. But, I mean, the longest throw that Kohlman had last week was 43 yards, and he needs to have more red zone touchdowns, and there's not enough of that.
Yeah, for me, I mean, going back to the running game, with Grove City struggling the way they do, I would say the running game, if what Jalen can play, I mean, we'll see what happens on Saturday. But him and any other of the running backs, I say they need to be the X factor. Obviously, I say X factor lightly because obviously it'll be a factor in the game.
Right.
But if they can get the running game going, they'll have a very good chance, I think, to win this football game with both teams going. And because, like Linnell said, the defense for Grove City just has struggled a lot this year. They haven't played well on third down. And if they can get third and shorts, which they haven't had a lot this year, at least the home games Dan and I have called, they've had a very lot of third and longs, third and 10s, third and 15s. And they also limit the penalties against Grove City. They'll have a good chance of winning the game.
All right, now let's look at this game defensively. The Bison are ranked second in the PAC in sacks per game, 21st overall nationally. And then obviously Donovan Hayden's second in tackles per game, 14.6. Does the defense have to change?
No. Oh, no.
No.
This week,
I didn't think so.
turnovers. Gotta force turnovers. Brett LaFoon leads a pedestrian passing attack for Grove City. I look for a guy like Dalton Freeman to really have an impact, a guy who leads his team in interceptions to really, give the offense, short fields, and that's what this offense needs. They need this. They don't need this defense to take a step back. Yes, it can be frustrating as a defender when your offense is leaving you out to dry sometimes. But that's what you're a team for. This defense has got to continue to play well, continue to give this offense good opportunities, and they're going to win.
I agree. I think the defense needs to stay exactly the same. They're averaging 3.38 sacks per game. Grove City's given up the most sacks in the league, up at 38 at this time. So with that in mind, you got to keep blitzing. You got to keep going after that quarterback. And just like how my colleague said here, if Brett LaFoon's gonna, he's had 24 interceptions this year. Let's keep pressuring him. Let's keep forcing him to throw this ball down the field. Force it to somebody like Dalte Freeman, who's got a good bit of interceptions already this year for Bethany, and force it to a leader, a veteran like Aaron Fry. And let's get some turnovers. Let's get some sacks. Let's have them be bad on third down. Let's have the Bison try to be, disciplined and run the ball. And let's try to have a close game here. It could really be a good competition for the Bison.
And another player I think we don't talk about enough on defense is the freshman, Colin Johnston. He's third in tackles on the team, 43, and he's tied for the lead in turnovers with 4. You got so much depth on this defense. They can play lights out any day of the week.
Yeah, they're actually really, really flexible. And, heck, that's half the reason why Bethany's been in half the games they've played is because of how the defense has been able to stop them on third downs, interceptions, turnovers. That's the key to winning a football. It's winning football right there.
Yeah, we talked about get turnovers, keep them in the game. Well, the Bison, they're plus 11 turnovers this season, so they can just keep doing what they're doing against a team who's struggling on offense just like they have. It won't be like a blowout like it was last year. It'll be a closer game, but if they can get their defense to play like they have, they should have no problem.
Now let's talk about Grove City's offense. They have the running back, Wesley Schools. He averages 99.1 yards per game. Quarterback Brett LaFoon averages 151.1 yards per game, but he also leads the league, the PAC, in interceptions with 24.
And that's where I think the Bison are going to have to really hone in. Points off turnovers in this game is probably my number one key. Bethany leads the pack, with 25 turnovers, only ranks 8th out of the 11 teams in points off turnovers. So, in points scored, averaging just over 20. So if this Bison offense can get the passing attack going with Kohlman, I think they've got a good chance.
when you look at Grove City, I think if Grove City's coming into this game, I think they need to say to themselves, we need to stay fundamentally balanced here, because Wesley Schools, I know 99 yards per game isn't great against teams like Westminster and W&J, but if they could, produce 99 yards on the ground here, this could be a really good game, because at least what I've noticed, Bethany has very bad trouble dealing with misdirections and play actions. So if they can get Wesley Schools to run the ball well, that play action's going to work. And Dalte Freeman or Aaron Fry, somebody on the Bethany Bison defense is going to bite too much, and then LaFoon's going to throw it over the top. That's how Grove State's going to have to score their points. They're going to have to be balanced and then take advantage of Bethany mistakes.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Well, I mean, Wesley Schools with 820 yards, nearly 1,000. You could say what you want about the 99 yards a game. I'll take that any day of the week.
Nothing to sneeze
Oh,
at.
yeah.
Yeah, and
And he's only a freshman.
exactly. I mean, that guy just produces.
He's going to be
yardage
a problem in
every-
the PAC
yeah,
for a
every
few years.
game, every game, and only 176 attempts. I mean, that's over 4.5 yards a game, or 4.5 yards per game. That's
That's good.
Very,
That's
very
great.
In any level you play in, that's great.
3 yards, that's first down, or 3 carries, that's first down.
This game may not be, the most interesting, to outside people looking in at the PAC or the PSC, excuse me. But these are two teams that, in my opinion, sort of mirror each other. Definitely didn't get off to the start they wanted to in the conference, but do have some very interesting young pieces moving forward. I think as far as for the Bison, led by an experienced coaching staff with Coach Bill Garvey, I think not what you wanted this year, but the effort has continued to be there every week in and week out, just by the example of how this defense has played. Haven't seen them put heads down and get absolutely shellacked. I credit this coaching staff for keeping these guys together and just continue to fight every week.
Yep. Now let's look at the keys to the game this week. My key is I have keep the offense on the field, obviously. You got to give the defense some rest. They've been playing lights out. They got to keep playing lights out. Next, I have consistent defense. They got to keep getting turnovers, keep getting all those tackles, just hold them. And then have an A-plus offensive line effort, because, in my opinion, they only have 2 seniors and then the rest are underclassmen, I think. And that's just, they need to wake up.
Yeah, that's one major problem with the Bethany team, is that they are very young, which is a very good thing in the future. But as right now, it's kind of showing their youth. And, injury is also a big factor this year.
Yes, that's also true.
But, yeah, you're exactly right. I also believe time of possession is going to be a major key for this game, especially when you got Wesley Schools on the other side trying to pound the rock and, I wouldn't say keep the ball out of LaFoon's hand, but as long as it's in their freshman star, their freshman steed, I guess you want to call him. And but both sides for Bethany and Grove City, you got to control the ball. If you got the ball in your hands, you can't lose.
Exactly. And I
Yeah.
think go ahead. Sorry about that.
For me, the key to the game, I say score early and often, just because, for one, Grove City is giving up 45.6 points a game, which is terrible. It's
Absurd.
not. But if you can score early and often and keep and obviously, I would say, all you guys said so far, keep the defense off the field, get them rested, in case if there's a point late in the game that. Because with both records, it should be I wouldn't say it's going to be anyone's going to run away with the game whatsoever. If both teams can score, but if there's a situation late in the game, if you have the defense rested, if you can score early and often, they might have to play 10 minutes in the fourth quarter if it comes to that point, and they'll be rested for it. So they can score early, get Chase to the receivers going, get the running game going, and just have a good game plan going. I think they should be fine, but they can score early and often and kind of get a comfortable lead and kind of get the offense settled down and kind of into a flow early, should be fine.
And like you guys all said, making them one-dimensional has got to be the key also defensively. If you can get the ball in LaFoon's hand and stop Mr. Schools, he's thrown 24 interceptions. This defense feasts off turnovers. We get the ball in the offense's hands, get some extra possessions, and punch those ones in. I don't think this should be a close game if we do everything we're supposed to do.
I agree that the key is keep the offense on the field, but I think more importantly, you got to give the ball to your playmakers, and more importantly, give the ball to Tyler Ambush. He's 2 yards away from 2,000 yards, but more importantly, he's your #1 receiver. He was the guy who came into this season was supposed to replace Eric Blinn. This is the receiver that should be getting 9, 10, 11 catches a game. So I say throw the ball to Tyler Ambush, throw to him in space, throw bubbles, throw a lot of short passes, get the passing game going. Then throw the ball to Terry Linyard. He's a very fast receiver. We like to put him in the slot. Let's throw him the ball. Then finally, try to run the ball, try to be as balanced as possible, and then, try to have your drives continue that way. Big thing is you're not going to score, try to eat clock. If you're not going to score, be on the field 3, 4, 5 minutes. Give your defense some time to breathe. Second, consistent defense. I agree the defense has got to stay consistent, but more importantly, they got to stay at home. Donovan Hayden's got to control the line of scrimmage. The defensive line's got to control the line of scrimmage. That, to me, this year has been the number one problem for the Bison. On both sides of the ball, in games where they are able to win, they don't control the line of scrimmage. And then finally, I do agree with you, A-plus line effort, but more importantly, I want A-plus line effort in the interior line. James Norcus, he's the senior offensive lineman there. He theoretically is the team captain of this offensive line. He's got to help. He's got to call out plays. He's got to call out blitzes and help this young offensive line out. If he can help out those young guards with Scarborough, Zach Yates, a lot of these young guys, and give this offensive line a chance, that'll give Chase a chance. Because a lot of the time, I've noticed Chase is always running around. He's not able to step up in that pocket. Give Chase a clean pocket. Because that's the other thing we got to realize here. Chase is very young. Let's give your young quarterback a clean pocket so he can make some clean reads. Let's give him some early passes early on to give him some decent confidence. Let's try to go into half with some sort of close or tie or some early lead here. Play to the advantage of being at home, and let's try to fight a good team here and try to get your first win in the pack.
I agree.
Yeah.
Now, let's wrap it up with our predictions and players of the week. I have Bethany coming out of this one in a close one, actually. 27-20 over Grove City. And my player to watch, obviously, his name's been in my mouth all day. Donovan Hayden. He's an animal. He's got to be your player to watch. What do you got, Kyle?
Absolutely. I mean, you took him from me? No, I'm good. But honestly, I would have to say quarterback Chase Kinman, he needs to show up, get that nice pocket, and get the ball to Tyler Ambush. That's huge. That's one thing they haven't really used too much as they've done short curls, they haven't done much bubble screens, they haven't tried to give the ball to their athletes in space. That's what they need to do. And Chase Kinman is the guy that needs to deliver the ball to the athletes.
Yep.
I'm with Kyle on this one. Chase needs to get going, have some nice passes, even if he has to use his feet a little bit to kind of get the running game comfortable, get going. I think Chase is the key factor in this game, and for prediction, I have the Bison I have them winning 35-21.
I do like your prediction of the whole score, 35-21, but I'm going to have to go on the opposite side. I do believe Grove City is going to come out here and get their first win of the year. To be honest, I think the Bison offensively just struggle too much. I think the passing game is still kind of strugglesome. I think Bethany struggles, how do I say this, with play calling at key points. I think they try to throw Tyler the ball too deep when they need to be thrown it to him short. And I think those type of things are long-term issues. More importantly, I think Chase struggles with the pocket. I think the linemen really have kind of given up on him. I think the injuries have kind of overpiled. You have way too many freshmen playing. It's going to be a rough game. Now, of course, can they still win? Absolutely. But I think if you're a betting man, I think you got to say Grove City's going to come in here and get a win. But it's going to be a great game to watch. Now, if you want to, who's going to be the upset man here, who's going to be the guy that makes my prediction look completely wrong, it's Chase. If he comes out there early, gets a clean pocket, is able to make some passes, and get a quick score, it's anyone's ball game. But if the line continues to struggle, Chase has to run around. He's not able to step up in the pocket. Chase has, kind of a weaker arm, so if he can't step up, it really adds problems. And then, in the PAC, we tend to be a zone-style, defensive attack here, so they'll just sit in coverage and they'll pick them off, and it'll be a rough game. But it'll be a high-scoring game, but I still see Bethany losing.
My man to watch, two guys to watch, actually. I mentioned them both earlier in earlier segments. Dalton Freeman, who leads the team with 4 interceptions, and Khalid Pierce, who leads the team with 4 sacks. I look at this Grove City offense, and I say if you make them one-dimensional, you keep the ball in LaFoon's hands, he's going to give you opportunities. And I think this defense has shown all year that they're opportunistic, and they're able to make plays on the ball, and they have the athletes to do so. So I feel like that'll be the main reason they win this game, but I do see them winning 36-27.
That is one thing that's going to be exciting to see, is that if they're able to fill the box up, because I don't know what type of offense the Grove City runs.
Either
it's power eye, it's going to be spread, but if it's power eye, fill the box with 8 guys, and then feed them the juice.
Feed them the juice.
Feed them the juice.
Regardless,
Smash
I
mouth.
think it's going to be fun to watch these 2 young quarterbacks go at it.
Oh, for
Because
sure.
regardless, these guys are going to probably be playing next year. So this will be our first look at LaFoon versus Kinnaman. So it'll be a great matchup.
All right, well, we got to get you two into the booth. You'll see me, Kyle, and Linnell at halftime. It's been a nice chat. We'll see you later.